Welcome to Whole Being Health, Function, Vitality and Mastery. Today we are continuing our series on how to lose weight. The first one, or part one, was focused on detoxification. This subject today will be focused on diet. Now, first of all, when we talk about diet, when we hear the word, we actually hear die with a T at the end. And the reason why that's so is because typically when you go on a diet, it creates a stress response in the body. It creates what we call a famine. Now, think of it like this. The body has specific rhythms. Everything we have is in flow when we don't maim our own body. Women, when they think about their menstrual cycles, they would have a menstrual cycle every 29 to 30 days when they are healthy. And they can tell you exactly when, because it's always in a specific rhythm when they are healthy. When it comes to our hair grows at a specific rate, month to month. Our nails grow at a specific rate, month to month. Our respiratory system is at the same pulse every minute, daily, when we are in a restful state. Our heart rate is in sync, minute to minute, hour by hour, when we are in optimal restful states. So we create rhythms every single day. And if you were on a diet, and you would, let's say, consume, for a woman, the average consumption is 2,000 calories. For a man, it's 2,500. So let's go with a woman for a second. So let's say a woman typically eats 2,000 calories every single day. And then tomorrow decides she's going on a diet. Diets are called such simply because they are calorie restriction based. So now the woman who's been eating 2,000 calories every single day immediately drops to 1,000 calories. Now, the body has a priority or a ratio or rationale for how much food, energy is going to what part of what body. So as you would have seen from some of my other videos, I explained the hierarchy of survival reflexes in the body. So a quick synopsis of that is that the organs, glands, tissues are far more important than the muscles and the brain, well, sorry, not the brain, but the muscles of movement. So if you go into a calorie restriction, your body now has to start rationing its energy it's getting from the limited amount of food to the organs of digestion, to the heart, the lungs, the liver, and the brain. Now, the reason why that's so bad is kind of speaking for itself anyway, because you're now rationing the food that is going to the priority systems of the body. The brain, for instance, is the most inefficient organ in the body. It weighs 1/25th of your body weight, but consumes up to 20% of the total demand. Think of when you sometimes go and have an exam, how tired you feel afterwards, especially if it's like a 2-hour exam or so on. You feel quite tired. It's because your brain is using a lot of energy to process, and that demands fuel. So if you're now on a calorie restriction, you're taken away from the natural reserves that your body would normally give to the brain in such a circumstance. Looking at it from another point of view, the organs and muscles in the body are constantly competing for energy. So if you were normally consuming 2,000 calories a day, and your body was prioritizing a specific amount of that energy for the organs and the cells of digestion, and a certain amount for the muscles, and then you start exercising tomorrow on a calorie restriction, and your muscles are demanding half the energy, because you are now only in half the calories, your body goes into a stress state. It doesn't know when food's coming into the body. So it doesn't know how to partition that energy to the organs and the muscles. Think of it another way. Imagine you were going into a desert. If you were in a desert, you would now be thinking about the lack of food or the amount of provisions that you have. So you start trying to hoard and hold on to, or eat slower, the amount of food that you have. That's what the body's pretty much doing. It's trying to figure out how much food it needs to ration. Think of it another way as well. If you were walking through a supermarket and you saw lots of water around you, you wouldn't be thinking, oh, I need to make sure I get enough water, because you see it all around you. You don't fear that there's a lack of water. But now going back to the desert example, if you were in a desert and you only had one bottle of water and you may have 20, 30 miles to go, you would immediately start rationing the amount of water that you're intaking minute to minute, hour to hour, because you're not sure how much you'll need to get through that 20, 30 mile trek. Well, the body has to go through this if you go into an immediate diet. And when you think about this, nobody really, some people do, but most people don't graduate how much food they're eating day to day when they start their diet. What do I mean by that? What I mean is, if somebody was eating 2,000 calories, they wouldn't say, okay, tomorrow I'll try 1,900, then 1,800, and so on. What people typically do is they immediately cut their calories in half when they're going on this diet. And like I said, you're creating a massive stress response to the body. So the body goes into a famine. When it goes into a famine, it's basically storing as much fat and protein as it can, because fat's a hormone and it gives you energy anyway. So it's storing as much fat as it can to the body because it helps to sustain energy. So it's actually a stress response to the body by actually trying to store food because it's not sure what's coming in. And when this happens, one of the first responses to stress is that your immune system starts to lower, whereby it means you're more prone to illness, as well as your digestive system starts to shut down. So one of the first initial responses to stress, or short-term responses to stress, is the digestive system starts to shut down. The long-term reaction to stress is the immune system becomes suppressed. So again, we see that this is a bad response to the body. So these stress responses then also create other secondary responses. Your body starts to cannibalize muscle tissue as well as fat to sustain itself. So it starts eating away at itself. Obviously, you would see this when you see these horrible images of children in third world countries where they start becoming emaciated, because the body starts to cannibalize itself when it's not getting enough nutrients from the food outside coming into the body in the form of eating. So some of you will probably have just heard, oh, well, you're cannibalizing fat. Well, that's great. Well, not really. Because like I said, fat's a hormone. Fat provides you with energy. You start cannibalizing fat, and especially women need more fat to sustain the hormonal system, then you're again creating more stress to the body. Another thing to deal with this, or to look at, when we say we're looking at a cannibalization of the muscle tissue, that's also a bad thing, because when you start to lose muscle, you're actually lowering your metabolic rate. So again, metabolic rate is the rate at which you burn calories day to day. So you actually want to be a fat burning article. You want to be a fat burning type of person. So thereby you actually want to have a higher amount of muscle tissue, because that demands more fuel, and thereby you burn more calories in a safer way. So just on that, there are two enzymes that your body produces: lipolytic and lipogenic. So lipogenic is the fat storing enzyme in our bodies, and lipolytic is the fat burning enzyme in our bodies. So you actually want to, if you want to lose weight, increase the fat burning enzyme and decrease the fat storing enzyme. How do you do that? Well, like I said, the first thing, you don't go on a diet. You raise your metabolic rate. The way you raise your metabolic rate is by increasing weight-bearing exercises. Think of it like this: a bodybuilder typically demands about 8,000 to 12,000 calories a day, because they have so much muscle, and muscle demands fuel. So because it demands fuel, it burns calories. So you've increased your lipolytic enzymes. So if you want to lose weight, rather than going on a diet, which again creates sympathetic stresses to the body and cannibalizes muscle tissue as well as fat, and creates a famine and forces you to start storing fat, then the best thing to do if you want to avoid all of those things is to start increasing weight training exercises into your program. Now, I know a lot of women are averse to this because of social programming and media telling them these false lies about how the body reacts to exercise. So what you want to do is, I'm going to give you an example of why weight training is better to lose weight than cardiovascular exercise. So what happens when you do cardiovascular exercise is you're actually burning calories, but only whilst you are doing the cardiovascular exercise. So if you were doing cardiovascular exercise for 30 minutes, you would be burning calories for 30 minutes. And you're probably thinking, well, that makes sense. But let me show you the opposite version of that now. If you were to do any form of weight training for, let's say, 30 minutes, what happens is your metabolic rate increases, which doesn't happen in cardiovascular exercise. Your metabolic rate increases fourfold, and for up to 72 hours after exercise. Whereas with cardiovascular exercise alone, your metabolic rate doesn't change. You are only burning calories because you are active at that point in time, and it doesn't happen after your training, where it does do with weight training. So when it comes to this concept of women thinking, oh, well, if I touch a dumbbell, I'm going to become He-Man or She-Ra. She-Ra's a muscle-bound woman that was in cartoons, just in case you didn't know. So if you create this idea in your mind about these women that do this, women that are incredibly muscle-bound, such as figure athletes and female bodybuilders, first of all, a lot of them are on growth hormones. Secondly, a lot of them, their loading zones are tremendously high, which means they're working at between 6 and 10 reps because they're trying to build muscle. And thirdly, they're probably putting in about 10 hours a week of weight training to elicit this response. When we talk about weight training for losing weight, we're talking about going to a higher loading zone between 12 to 18 repetitions, doing about 45 minutes of training, no more than about 3 times a week. Therefore, you're increasing metabolic rate and metabolic activity. Remember, weight training isn't just about picking up weights. Weight is your own body. Body weight is still weight training. Gymnastics, that's weight training. So anything where you're loading your body increases the metabolic rate, which helps to burn calories. So now, if you were consuming these 2,000 calories every single day, and your metabolic rate increased, let's say 15-20%, then you could still eat those 2,000 calories, but you're actually burning calories quicker, so you're losing weight. It's the safest way to do it. Now, continuing with how do I lose weight, the next thing we will look at is nutrition from an energetic point of view. So when we eat in food, it's not about calories, it's about nutrients. If you ate 2,000 calories of chocolates, you wouldn't get a high amount of nutrient content, would you? No. So if you had 2,000 calories of broccoli or kale or smoked salmon, these sort of things create a higher amount of nutrient content for the amount of calories you get. And when you have a higher amount of nutrient content, you don't need to eat as many calories. Think of it like this. The reason why most people get fatter or bigger is because they tend to eat dead food. And when they eat food that has no nutrient content, the apostat, which is a chemical in the brain which is searching for calories, searching for nutrients, tells you to eat more calories to gain those nutrients because there was nothing in the food that you ate. So because there was nothing in the food that you ate, your body says keep eating. So because you keep eating, your stomach expands, and as your stomach expands, you gain more weight because there's more space to fill. So you start to get bigger and bigger and bigger. Now, let me put this to you as well now. Organic food has far more nutrient content for the available calories that it gives you. It has been tested that 1 carrot has the same amount, let me just change that. 1 organic carrot has the same amount of nutrient content as 30 to 40 commercially farmed carrots. It really gets to me when I hear people tell me organic food is too expensive. If you were to get a bag of 1 kilogram of organic carrots, it may cost you £1 to £2. If you were to get the same, but for commercially farmed carrots, it may cost you 80 to £1.40 or £1.50. So we're looking at probably 15% difference in price, but yet 40 times the amount of nutrient content, which means you can get away with eating far less food. Therefore, far less calories and far less waste. Another thing to do with this is commercially farmed food or unorganic food has more toxicity in it through pesticides, herbicides, fungicides, and so on. When these chemicals come into your body, they have to be detoxified by the body, and therefore your body increases fat stores to hold the toxins in them when the burden of toxicity is too much for the liver to filter. So therefore you put on a lot more weight anyway. So that's another reason why it's beneficial to eat organic food when it comes to losing weight. So a few tips. Sometimes when you think you are hungry, it's not because you are hungry, it's because you are thirsty. So before you try to eat something, if you were just used to just gorging food, I would suggest the first tip being to drink water, at least half a liter of water, and wait 20 to 30 minutes and see if you are still hungry. Therefore, you'll be able to identify whether you are thirsty instead of hungry. The next tip when it comes to water is to find out how much water you should consume every single day. The way you can do this, you get half your body weight in kilograms. So if you're 100 kilograms, it's 50 kilograms. You times that by 0.033, and that will give you the amount of your weight in fluid ounces of water per day. So it's 50 kilograms times 0.033, whatever figure you get, that's the amount of fluid ounces of water you need every single day. Another way you can do it is for every 33 kilograms of body weight, it's 1 liter of water. Keep your body hydrated will help to get away from any form of starvation, because sometimes it's not because you're hungry, it's because you're thirsty. Therefore, you don't gorge and you don't put on weight because you're just eating at irregular times and not listening to your body's actual true signs. Next thing I would say is find out what your food ratios are. So how much proteins, fats, and carbohydrates you need. You can do this by just going online and you can just Google metabolic type and self-test or primal pattern self-tests. And therefore you'll find out what your ratios should be day to day, because if you eat towards your ratios, you typically won't be hungry because you're getting the amount of energy necessary for your genetic type. The next thing is to make sure you eat organic as stated, because it gives you a high amount of nutrient content and therefore you need less calories to sustain yourself. Finally, my last tip, to get to bed by 10:30 p.m. every single day, because therefore your hormones are more regulated and you heal every single night, and therefore it helps you to alleviate the imbalance in hormones that makes you desire more food than you need. So we'll get into a deep subject on sleep in another video, but suffices to say, get to sleep on time. It helps to regulate your hormones and helps to regulate the amount of food that you need throughout the day. Also making sure that you balance your blood sugar by getting enough proteins and fats into your diet to regulate energetic flow. So there you have it, some of my tips for how to lose weight by not dieting. Stay healthy, happy, and whole be in health.